got your boat in, gonna let it thaw out. Figured I'd kind of start digging in. Here's something you never want to see. Whole piles of extra wires. 2 sets of wires going to where the throwing motor plugs in, and wire nuts that are certainly not marine grade all over the place. Oh, that one broke because, you know, it's just a cheesy wire nut and they don't really do much. Wonder if that was him, or probably not because he's red, so that's something. It'll be a bit of work, but it'll be pretty cool. Well, this sweet little Alumacraft Classic 16 finally thawed out. It's time to do the first thing you do with any restoration project, really. You just tear the whole thing apart. See what you gotta rebuild. Get to going. Sweet anchor. Hey, I got a bunch of free stuff. Who wants it? There, front light with a hair tie. Why is the hair tie on there? Oh, because it's broken. No, it's alright. We'll get a new one. Still works! You're looky there. They reckon this was a ski boat. You know, it's a pretty light boat. Well, the Army Pro might have pulled a skier. Well, it already looks a lot more like a boat. I think it's a pretty good layout for a little fishing boat. I wouldn't throw this away. There's lots of good bits here. The biggest issue we got though is the floor is growing mushrooms and has some holes in it. I try to get this mushrooms out of here. You know, that's something. But it also, you know, you shouldn't probably be able to put your foot through that. And it's like that just about everywhere. It's weird that it's riveted. We'll have to figure out what that's all about, but it's time to tear it all apart. Plus, it'll be a nice little boat again instead of just junk in the woods. I love digging junk out of the woods, ripping it apart and making it into something someone can love. So this next bit's really the start of the teardown. You start with the hard parts. The steering and the controls for the motor and all of your main wiring run underneath this guy. So we're going to get him freed and then get the console freed so we can send all that through and get it out of the way. Get that out of the way. Regular ones rust, then they rot, then they fall apart. Console and you say, holy crap, look at all this stuff I gotta do. But to get the steering cable out, all you do is screw this nut here, and in the newer safety steers, it's just a pin. Then you start cranking the wheel to send it through, and it comes out this way, and you pull it all out. And you do want to protect that, which I talked about. And all this looks real intimidating, but realistically, this plug carries everything for you if you save the wiring on a factory boat. This big red wire here is the main power from your battery. That comes down here and powers your fuse blocks. And they just splice in right there to power the second fuse block. And the big black one that comes off of here, this guy right here, he runs to the ground side of the fuse block. So now, when you need something on a switch, you plug it into the ground anywhere, and then you plug it in to the fuse block, and you go from there to the switch you want it on. It's all very simple. If you needed to redo all this and start over, maybe in another video I'll do one like that, but if you can keep it this way, it's much easier to just take that wire harness back in and plug it in and leave it alone. Now if you have a speedometer, that's up here, like these gauges. Now this is a tachometer, and this one's just going to have, well, maybe that one's not the tach. Yeah, that's the tach. That one's going to go to your control box. There's plenty of wires, it's all color-coded, and they just unplug. It's really nothing to it. This is a trim, but if you have a speedometer, it's going to look like this in the back, and it's got a rubber hose. And you just pop that off and send it off the back, and you'll see where it goes. It's really not as intimidating as it looks. If you wanted to add a depth finder or anything, you can just plug into the ground here, and anywhere on this fuse block that's got a fuse and isn't being used, maybe down here there's a bunch of empty slots. Put a fuse in. Stick the black to a ground there, stick the red to there, bring it up maybe through that hole or wherever you're going to mount the graph, wire it up. So here's a little example of some of the crap you run into when you rip apart these boats. Sometimes there's rivets in places you don't even know how they got a rivet, and you got to figure it out. Here's what we're talking about. I had to sneak my drill up through there, up into that little hole. There it is. It's going to be a struggle just getting it out. But did all that, and I can't even hardly get a phone in there now. There's a couple secret rivets holding that bad boy to the side. Might seem impossible, but there's always a way, and they do come apart because they did go together, and then you can put them back together again, I promise. The only thing to it is to do it. Every day is for boats. Here's a bit about where we're at, grinding on this boat. Got a pile of wires here. You can't really be intimidated by that. It all goes into the console. Some of it's got plugs, and a lot of that is actually just what comes off the control box here. And these are always real long. And this is a pretty small boat. So I like to leave it connected to the control box. Easier to take it off of the motor and then just set the box aside with all its wires and go that way. Then you got to take the throttle and the gear select off, and that's real simple. That's just pins in here. You know, the wires all come off real easy. They're all color coded, so you just unplug all that stuff, and there's always a main harness, and you unplug it and send it that way. Just go on that way. The thing I ran into real quick though is I'd love to save this sheer rubber boot, because these are good to have. I flipped them inside out and pulled some of the stuff through there, but I left this bracket on here for the controls, and I'm going to have to go ahead and split that. I just have to undo that one bolt, and it comes apart in 2 pieces, and set that aside for now. Then these can get sent all the way through here, and the control box can get out of the way. And when you pull your steering out, you know, if you've got a regular cable steer like this, you want to put some saran wrap over that end or something to protect it. They've got a plastic sleeve to protect them most of the time. You can take that off and put it on there, but this one's bolted on, a little old style, so that had to stay with the thing. So protect it though. These run on grease, and you want to keep them clean. Then we'll unhook that from the motor. That's a pretty simple disconnect process. Just unscrew that there. You gotta take it off the end over there and send it on through, and then we'll just send that all the way through this way too, and get rid of the steering cable. That'll be no big deal. Next, that piece of aluminum has to go, that whole base with the live well and everything, so we'll have to get the live well out of there and find the plumbing and disconnect that, and find the rivets and get all that out of there. So we pulled the controls, easy peasy lemon squeezy, but I got to this point on the steering, remove that nut, remember to put all your stuff back. The washer goes on either side of there, don't forget that. But I remembered I might have lied to you a little bit. Once we pull this all the way out of there, like we're gonna do in just a second here, I'm gonna need 2 hands. We're probably not gonna send it through that way. That's a big stiff piece of steel, and well, you don't want to ding it up and send it through and all that. And we got our nice saran wrapped end here that's a little more pliable. So we're going to pull it out of the back of the motor there, but then we'll send it this way.